If you're a knitter, there is a very high likelihood that you've heard of PetiteKnit before. With her minimalist yet timeless designs, she has built a knitting empire that has captivated thousands of knitters worldwide. But how did she do it? Let's dive into the story of how PetiteKnit took over the knitting world. We're going to have a look at who the designer behind PetiteKnit even is, and why her knitting patterns and design aesthetic are so popular. Then we'll dive deeper into what sets her apart from other knitwear designers. We will also see what she offers besides knitting patterns, and then of course we'll explore some of her iconic patterns. And as a bonus, I am also going to show you which of PetiteKnit's patterns I have knitted, including the one that I am wearing today. So starting off with, who is PetiteKnit? PetiteKnit is the brand created by the Danish designer Mette Wendelboe Okkels. What started as a personal passion for knitting quickly grew into one of the most recognized brands in the knitting community. Her patterns are known for their simplicity, wearability, and Scandinavian aesthetic, qualities that have made them incredibly popular. PetiteKnit was established in 2016, and since then she has published more than 200 patterns. But Mette hasn't always been a knitwear designer. She initially wanted to become a doctor, and she was studying medicine, and she was 1 year away from her final exam when she made a life-changing decision. She was on parental leave with her third child when she decided to go all in with PetiteKnit. She had already been publishing knitting patterns at that time, but she made the decision then and there to become self-employed instead of becoming a doctor. On her website, I found the following statement, what made her become a knitwear designer. I think it was my father and my mother who inspired me to make my creative side my profession. They have both been self-employed all my life, so the idea of working for myself and creating something that was my own has really always been there, even though it took almost 10 years of studying medicine to realize it. My grandmother taught me to knit when I was 6 years old, and I've knitted ever since. However, it wasn't until I was on maternity leave with my first daughter I started developing my own designs and knitting larger pieces for myself as well. A part of my motivation for knitting for myself has always been to knit something of just as high or higher quality than I could have bought, both in the quality of the yarn I use and in the way the knitwear fits me. For this reason, the first thing I consider when designing a new piece is that it has to be something I want to wear or use myself or see my family wearing. Fast forward until today, and Mette has managed to build a knitting empire. But not only that, she is also the mother of 5 young children, and she's only 35 years old. Personally, I find her story very inspiring. I love to hear life stories when people take brave decisions and change their lives in drastic ways. But what does Mette know about knitwear design and contemporary knitting patterns that others don't? How was she able to grow PetiteKnit into such a huge and popular brand? Let's have a look. One of the biggest reasons for PetiteKnit's success is her signature style. Her patterns focus on elegant, everyday pieces, like the Ingrid sweater, the no-frills sweater, and the Sophie scarf. Unlike traditional knitting patterns that can feel outdated, PetiteKnit creates pieces that look like they belong in a high-end fashion boutique. But it's not just her designs. Mette Wendelboe Okkels has mastered the art of branding and social media. With over 1.2 million followers on Instagram, she has created a strong community by sharing beautifully styled photos, behind-the-scenes moments, and engaging with her audience. Her minimalist branding and cohesive aesthetic make her instantly recognizable. What I think Mette does really well in her Instagram feed is that her pictures always feel so relatable. They are never overly styled, and they are just a beautiful incarnation of this relaxed Scandinavian lifestyle. Whenever I look at her pictures, I in my mind see myself wandering the streets of Copenhagen with a coffee in the one hand and a cinnamon roll in the other, or spending a day at the Baltic Sea. I think she's really able to capture this aesthetic in her pictures perfectly. Another key factor in her success is accessibility. PetiteKnit offers clear, well-written patterns that appeal to both beginners and experienced knitters. She also provides tutorials and knitting guides, making it easier than ever for people to get started with her design. PetiteKnit's patterns have gone viral in the knitting community, with thousands of knitters sharing their projects online. The rise of social media and the growing interest in slow fashion and handmade clothing have only fueled her popularity. Her patterns are not just instructions, they are part of a lifestyle movement. Beyond patterns, PetiteKnit has expanded into yarn collaborations, knitting accessories, and even exclusive kits. By diversifying her offerings, she has created a complete knitting experience for her audience. On her website, you can purchase various knitting accessories like stitch markers, lint removers, wool soap, or even bag handles and zippers. She also has her own color series with the popular Norwegian yarn company Sandnesgarn. At the moment, there is a PetiteKnit line of colors for the 3 popular bases: Sunday, Double Sunday, and Peer Gynt. And as you can see here, PetiteKnit stays true to her style with colorways that somehow feel both classic and contemporary at the same time. Let's have a look at a couple of PetiteKnit's patterns now. Personally, I have knitted 5 of her designs so far, but I have to admit that I have several more in my favorites. The first design that I would like to talk about is the one that I am wearing, and this is her Sunday cardigan, which I knitted in yarn from the Norwegian brand Hillesborg, and the yarn base is called Ask. And I'm going to put the colorway name in the description box because I cannot remember out of the top of my head. I think this is a very beautiful design and I love to wear this cardigan. I think there is a whole range of different designs in the Sunday line. It is also available as a sweater and a tee, and I think also in different gauges. The next pattern that I wanted to show you is my Cumulus tee. I made this V-neck version last summer and I used Knitting for Olive's pure silk that I bought in the undyed version called Cream, and then naturally dyed myself using Avocados. And I really like the look and the fit of this tee. It is just the perfect piece for summer and I have already worn this one a ton. And next up is a pair of mitts. Let me put them on. I have 2. These are mitts from a set called the Vienna set. This comes with the mitts pattern and also a simple stockinette scarf. And the special feature of this mitts is this rolled edge at the cuff, which is simply done by knitting stockinette all the time basically, because stockinette has the tendency to roll on itself. This was a scrap yarn project. I used Plötolopi, which is the unspun yarn from the Icelandic company Istex that I had left over from different projects. I used a natural undyed white and a light gray one, and this created this beautiful mild effect. And it is a very simple pattern, which I quite like. I did make the cuff a little bit shorter than what was called for in the pattern because I wanted to be able to still put the mitts on when I was already wearing my coat, because I think originally in the pattern it is written in a way that it is so long that I would have trouble putting the mitts on after I'm already wearing my coat, so this didn't seem too practical to me. The next pattern I made from PetiteKnit is the Oslo hat. I'm going to put up a picture for you because this was a gift for my sister that I made her for Christmas last year. And I knitted it in Double Sunday, also in one of PetiteKnit's colors. I used this beautiful light blue. And the fifth pattern that I knit was the anchors dress that I made for one of my nieces last year. She turned 3 in May and I knitted this dress, and I used the Mandarin Petit by Skein in a beautiful aqua turquoise color that I am also going to put somewhere on the screen because I cannot remember the colorway name out of the top of my head. So the anchors dress was also a very enjoyable pattern, and there are different designs in the anchors line. I think there is a cardigan, a sweater, an adult tee, a hat, and I'm not even sure if I missed something. And I think this is a very beautiful design, very classic, but just with this little something extra, and I would love to make a tee for myself for the summer. If you have a look at PetiteKnit's pattern portfolio, you quickly realize that she is very efficient with her designing. A lot of the patterns are not only available for women, but also for men and children. And I wanted to show you her popular Moby sweater pattern, for example. So this one is available both for women and men. But there is also a baby, mini, and a junior pattern. And it is also available as a slip over. Or look at her novice pattern range, for example. This also comes in a large amount of different pattern variations. Another example is her extremely popular Sophie scarf. That one also comes as a shawl version and a hood. But this is also where a bit of controversy comes in. While other designers offer a wide array of different sizes all within one pattern, you have to purchase the patterns individually from PetiteKnit. So if you would like to make a pattern for a baby, you would have to get a different pattern compared to making it for a kid, for example. And there are also individual patterns for the different styles. So you have one pattern for the sweater, one for the cardigan, one for the slip over, and so on. She also has a couple of patterns that are more or less the same, but only differ in gauge. For example, in her anchor line, she has a pattern for a DK weight version called the Anchors Summer Shirt. And if you want to knit this pattern in a fingering weight yarn, you would have to purchase a different pattern called the Anchor Tee. Of course, I do understand the frustration that comes when you want to knit the same pattern for an adult and a child, and you have to purchase 2 individual patterns instead of just getting one and having the wide size range within this one pattern. But on the other hand, I also completely understand the designer's perspective here. Creating a knitting pattern is a huge amount of work, from coming up with the idea to knitting the sample, probably having to re-knit certain sections several times, then grading it, having it tag edited, having it test knitted, and then taking the pictures, publishing it and marketing it. We are looking at a significant amount of work here. Granted, it gets easier and easier and also faster the more you do it, but we are still nevertheless looking at weeks, if not months of work here. And since PetiteKnit is not a hobby but Mette's full-time business, I do have to say that I understand that she creates her patterns the way that she does. From a small passion project to a global knitting brand, PetiteKnit's story is nothing short but inspiring. Since she is constantly creating new patterns and coming up with new designs while also expanding her brand, it is clear that her influence in the knitting world is here to stay. I would love to know, what is your favorite pattern of PetiteKnit? Please leave a comment and let me know. And I will see you next time. Happy making. Bye guys!